Hi, my name is Carlos Perez. I grew up in Makaha, Hawaii. Um, this is my story. So as a kid, I grew up behind Cornets, right off of Orange Street. Um, I had a pretty normal life up until I was 6 years old. Um, I remember going to a lot of family conventions, Christmas parties with my mom's side, family reunions with my dad. Uh, Basically, the same story as everyone else. One parent got struck out, and the other parent always worked. So, growing up, there weren't that much happy memories, but I do have a lot of life lessons learned growing up on my own. My dad worked for Pearl Harbor. He worked for NAVSEA. He was a nuclear submarine machinist and comms expert. My mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she was a little strung. She was strung out already, and she was in and out of jail for child abuse, abuse of a household member of my dad. So it's basically always me and my brother Jake, and Jake was like my second dad. He was my dad growing up. He was only 2 years older than me. It was tough because we didn't have much. Everyone thought that my dad worked for the government, so he had all this money. We were supposedly the rich kids on the block because we had a go-kart. We always had nice shoes. You know, we had okay clothes. We had a game system that most kids didn't have in the 90s. We had Sega. Most people don't know what that is nowadays. Sega. We didn't ever own a Nintendo. I always wanted a Nintendo though. But we had a pretty good life, as from what I can tell looking back on it now. I wish I still had that, but I'm here where I'm at right now. When I got into my teen years, I wanted to follow my oldest brother with all his friends because they were cooler than the ones that I had in my age group. And they did a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, a lot of smoking weed. A few of them did cocaine. I've tried it, but it didn't work out like you thought it would be. But as time went on into my teen years, my brother had a lot of friends with real problems, almost same problems as us. Abused kids, parents gave up on them, and we would open our holiday to these kids, like 15 of them one time. And every day my dad would come home 12 o'clock at night, and he'd look on the floor in the parlor, or he'd walk through the house, and you'd hear his keys rattling, and he'd walk through the house in each room. He would see a different kid every night in each room, in one part of the house, and he would ask, "Who's this kid? Where he from? Okay, make sure he clean the yard. Make sure he does something," right? So that was going on all the way till like I was maybe 22 years old. Then slowly my dad would encourage all these guys that used to live with us, and he would tell them, I used to be a janitor. I used to work. I used to work as a janitor. I used to scrub toilets at UH Manoa, and I used to play guitar with Israel Kamaka Viva Ole when I was young. They used to sing in the hallways because they was janitors too. So, he would tell them his story, that he came from public housing in Palolo, and where he'd only have 2 pieces of shirts and underwears and shorts for about 2 or 3 years. That's how it was growing up, I guess, in the 60s. And he would tell me, there's so much things in life that you can get to. Look at me. Everybody looked at my dad as like, I want his job. I want to be at Pearl Harbor. I want to do what he does. He has so much money. But you're missing the big picture. You can have all that money. You won't take it with you when you die. What you can't have is time. And he dedicated all his time to Pearl Harbor. 39 years, 18 hours, 22-hour shifts, working every day, 2 to 3 hours of sleep for nothing, honestly, because I feel like if he took the normal 12-hour shift or 10-hour shift, I would have seen life a little bit easier or better. I think I would have made better decisions. I just didn't have that parent in my life. I just had my brother and his friends. And I shouldn't even say friends. Those are my brothers too. And each of them had their own situations, and I would look at them and I would know not what to do and what to do. But my dad, he spoke to a few of them, and I had an adopted brother. Well, he was my neighbor from when I was 6 years old, and he came from Samoa. He got his ass beat, and the mom didn't want him there no more. He got beat up from the teacher. It was so bad to where he had to come to America. And my dad was like, hey, you gotta help this kid. This was the only kid had more rights in my house than I did. This guy was he's still my brother to this day. That's always gonna be blood doesn't matter. He's gonna be my brother. Anyway, my dad, he took a lot of my dad's ways and he's using it today. And when I talk to him today, I always tell him, you better slow down on working and actually spend time with your kids. You look just like the old man. I still tell him to this day. He's still hard-headed. But everyone else has fell out. They done drugs. They're still out there doing drugs. I can say out of maybe 15 or 17 guys, only 4 or 5 of them made it, including my brother. My Hanai brother, my Samoan brother. Sad to say, me and my brother didn't make it. To this day, I still struggle. But, it's life. You gotta keep moving. As I was saying earlier, growing up, I had a neighbor. She lived across the street. She was the first lady on the block. Her name was Alice Raposa Silva. She migrated from Coco Head in Oahu. Her family owned over 187 acres in Coco Head. In the 1930s, something happened with their trust and will where it got revoked and everyone went their separate ways and the state ended up with it. So, when I came in 2003, I used to see Alice with her little cart. She'd walk out. As old as she was maybe about 86 years old at that time. Maybe older, I think maybe 90. She was about 90 years old. And she would take her cart and she'd go to the Cornets bus stop outside by 7-Eleven. And she'd go to Tamura's. And my dad, he would come home from work at 12 o'clock at night. He would sleep in till like about 6 o'clock. He'd wake up, he'd do things around the yard, take us to school, whatever. And after a while, my dad, he started to notice that Alice was slowing down. So he offered help, take her to the grocery store, to walk her in the house. And mind you, this lady, she was old, so old people, they into cats, right? So she had like about 1 million cats, had fleas all in the neighborhood. When he wanted me to get involved and help her, you walk in her house, it just smelled like cat urine. You could smell the cat urine from the fence. And my dad said, no, you know what, Mrs. Silva, this is no way to live. You need to we need to fix your house. So my dad, out of his heart, he had me my two brothers, Charlton and Jacob, every day for a whole summer, rip out her rug, scrub her floors, retile her floors. I'm 11 years old doing this, learning this. My brothers are 13 and 14. So we're all working, we're all smelling like cat shishi. We got flea bites all over us for a whole summer, right? And we would cook her dinner. It's kind of like we just, after a while of working and doing our house, it became a lifestyle. We knew what we had to do every day. We would wake up, and my oldest brother Charlton would be, boy, we gotta go help the old man across the street. And I said, okay, we go. And me, I'd always drag my ass, complain, just stand there, do nothing, whatever, right? So after a while, I didn't have a grandma growing up in my life, and Alice, she was like my grandma. After a while, I would look at her as my grandma, and I was mean to her because I was a stupid boy. I should have never treated her on certain days that way. But anyway, she fell down one day. She shattered her hip. She had osteoporosis. After she came out of the doctor, she developed Alzheimer's and dementia. And I'm 13, going into high school, taking care of her. And she had a whole hip replacement. So she's old, man. You know, she's real old. She's in pain. She's about 94, 95 years old. And on school nights, she would bring her bell. She would have on bell. We'd put on bell by her bed. She would bring her bell. She'd say, I gotta go bathroom. I need help. So I'd carry her off her bed. It wasn't just me who did it. It was me and my brothers. We would all take shifts while my dad went to work. In my dad's eyes, he would look at Alice as his mom. And that's why we took care of her. And I would pick her up off her bed. Gotta be very gentle with her. She's so brittle. And I would sit her next to her toilet with a trash bag in her toilet. And I would have to wipe her, you know, and put her pants back on, carry her back into her bed, go to the kitchen, make her hot cup of cocoa, because that's what she wanted every time she wake up in the middle of the night. And then after a while, she would start to get up, she would exercise, not exercise, but she'd be on her walker so she can start to walk again. And that's when the dementia got really bad. I remember waking up a couple times. Once I caught a coffee cup to the head. The second time the coffee cup hit the door, because she called me a stranger for sleeping in her house. Dementia kicked in, right? You know, and then she beat Jacob with a cane in his sleep. So that was like pretty messed up. And the only person she would remember out of everybody else was my dad. And it was pretty wild. And it got so wild to a point where my dad had his most trusted friends, Moki Hana and Wayne Lancaster. They grew up around the corner from us. And he told them, the people they used to live in the greenhouses on Orange Street. And the guy who owned them, he decided to sell it, and had my Uncle Wayne, Auntie Moki. They had 2 sons, Ko and Alika, and they had 3 daughters, Kahea, Aloha, and Lehua. And my dad couldn't stand the fact to see them go out to the beach. So we just went fix this whole house, right? This house is like almost semi brand new. And we did a lot. He put a lot of money. I say he put about $60,000 of his own money into the house. Just out of his heart, bro, he did on my dad. Or maybe because of the tax write-offs, because he made so much money through the year. But he brought this family over, and all he wanted them to do was, you do what you like. This your yard. I'm going to introduce you to Alice Silva. So then after a while, Moki became her hospice nurse. And Auntie Moki, she was on hospice nurse before anything. Like I think in the 70s or in the 80s, I'm not sure. But So I could go back to school. Jacob could get back to his regular sleep schedule. Even my oldest brother, he could go back to school and not worry. We get Auntie them and my cousins across the street from us. So get Alice's house. If you coming down Hana Street, Alice's house is the last house on the left, and our house is the last house on the right. And we'd always go back and forth between each other. And I remember my 9th grade year. I lost my Auntie Moki. My Auntie Moki and passed away. I think she had a heart attack. She was diabetic. And then, yeah. So Alice never know what for do. Had family members come down from the mainland, and they was trying to give her paperwork. Make her sign that they were the caregivers and they handle all of her expenses, but not knowing she had already covered these grounds with my dad. My dad was her caregiver. My dad was the one who took her to the hospitals, took her to her doctor's appointments. Hey, even running on 1 hour, 2 hours worth of sleep because he had to go back work for the government. He handled that, bro. He was a man. You don't find men like that. And I could never be like that. And I remember one day sitting in her parlor when Uncle Wayne left. I was working at the golf course, and I was making breakfast for Alice that morning. I remember that like it was yesterday. I made banana pancakes with the haupia syrup. That's what she wanted. She loved that. And she pulled a paper out with dementia and Alzheimer's. This lady pulls out a deed for her house, and she asked my dad to become the successor when she died. She willingly wanted to give my dad that. And that morning, her nieces came while she's giving this paper to my dad. The nieces come, hello, auntie, this and that. They're from like Ohio or something. And then she's like, I don't know you. Get out of here. Oh, you don't remember me? I'm your sister's daughter. She said, yeah, but you've done nothing for me my whole entire life. I fell down. I don't know what happened to my hip. I fell down. I don't know what happened. You weren't there. Gennaro was here. And they kind of just look at my dad with this evil look, like, who the fuck are you? What are you trying to do? And my dad said, hey, Alice. She's like, Gennaro, I need your help. Could you please read these documents to me? She was deaf already. She was a little bit deaf. So my dad would read the documents to her. And he says, Alice, these people want to put you in a care home. They want you to sign. They have their own deed to this property with the tax map key. They want you to sign it over into their name. And she threw her coffee on those papers. And she spat on them, and she told them to get out of her house. And I remember calling them pilau haulis. That is what we call pilau haulis in Hawaii. And I remember her niece saying that, did you just call me some type of nigger slur? I said, yeah, in a Hawaiian way, we call that pilau haulis. That's what you are. One pilau hauli. Get the fuck out of here. And it was that day my dad said, Alice, I don't want nothing from you. You're my neighbor. I love you like you're my mom. You donate it to charity or something. She refused to give her house to a charity. And she wanted my dad to sign it. And she said, if I die tonight, I'm gonna be so mad at you. You're like my son that I never had. My dad, it was the first time I saw my dad cry. And I remember sitting there with him and I said, wow, Dad, that's crazy. I said, did you know that doing all this good work would get you this place? He said, you know what, son? You don't do good things to people for expect something great. You do them out of your heart. And I find myself doing that on a daily, and I get shit on every day. Two weeks later, Alice passed away in her bed at 9 a.m. in the morning. And the documents were never fulfilled like it was supposed to. She signed the will and the trust over to my dad, and he had an attorney ready to do it. And I don't know why this attorney took forever, but it never got done. It never was turned over into my father's trust. So now we're gonna fast forward into my life. To my high school years, just to make it short, I was a bully. I was a bully who bullied bullies, and I picked on the weak here and there. Got into multiple fights in school to where I was expelled. I was just on the wrong path for no reason. I own that. And when I got into my adult years, when I was 19 years old, I grew up on Orange Street. I was part of the Orange Street Boys back in the 2000s. 2005 to 2000, I don't know, maybe 15. I got out. It wasn't like a real like blood in, blood out type of thing. It was just my time to break from that tree. Cause in 2019 I committed I wouldn't say it was a crime, it was mostly an unfair fight. And we got into a big scuffle with them party. They came down Orange Street with about 40 guys. So we ended up fighting with these guys. They got lickings, whatever. Yeah, they would say they didn't, whatever. Yeah, you got lickings. Anyway, it was 7 against 30, maybe 40 guys. And this one dude, he came around on a baseball bat and tried to hit my friend's brother, my friend that I grew up with my whole life. Was a Marcelino. He tried to hit my friend's brother with a bat, and I ended up hitting him. And this guy was so big that when I hit him, he hit the ground. And he got up, and when he got up, his scalp was just peeled back, bro. He peeled his forehead. I don't know how, but from here, it was just off. It was just skull. I was facing an attempted murder in the first, assault with a deadly weapon in the first, assault in the first, and with malicious intent. That was my first charges as an adult. 2 years later, I was fighting a case, and like this. I was fighting that case for 2 years, going to trial for it. And I ended up getting into a drive-by shooting in the Waianae Boat Harbor. And while this shooting is happening, or like by the scale house, the pavilion where you turn into where the scale house is, the shooting takes place there. My old coach, who coached the DBs, I'm not gonna say his name, he's retired now, but he was a police officer at that time, and he saw the whole fucking thing happen. And I thank him for this day for whatever he wrote in his report. So the drive-by happens. I didn't say I was the one who shot the gun, and I'm not going to say who did it. But he died. He's not here with us today. I ended up getting hit. We ended up getting into a high-speed chase. Come back around Makaha Valley. We come down Lahaina about 80 miles per hour. Try to hit the corner on Orange Street. The corner was too tight. We end up doing 360 into the light pole. Bam, my leg gets stuck. Guns on the floor. And I'm like, I know my friend didn't wipe it down, so I wiped it down for him. I stuck it under the chair. And as I finally got my leg free, I'm like dragging my leg across the road. And all I hear is, Perez, get on the fucking ground now. You make one more step, I'm gonna fucking shoot you. And I instantly remember I knew what cop it was. And I was like, fuck, I'm busted. He knows me by my name. So I just flopped on the ground like a fish, like that. Boom. I did down on the ground like that. Hands out, spread out. He puts his knees on my back. Grabs me by my hair. You know you made a fucking stupid decision tonight, right? And I said, yeah, I know I fucked up. Because I know this coach. And I know I know this cop. I know this voice. The back of my head, because of all the guys that grew up with me. He ran through my house for a few of them. Multiple times. Ran through my yard, jumped through my windows, and chased my friends down through my house. And then I have to see him at practice, so he's like, you just couldn't break away from your friends. Yeah, you just had to be like the rest of the dumbasses. And I laugh, and he laughs, and he said, Brad, it's funny, but you fucked up today. And then that's when it hit me. I started crying, this and that, whatever. And he walks up to the car and he says, I didn't see who shot the gun, so you need to be honest with the detective when he comes to talk to you. He winks at me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm in the main police station downtown. I'm in there for like 4 days, bro. 4 days. I stay over there screaming my head off in cell block, telling him, bro, let me go, Triple C already. This is torture. I don't like being here with another drunk, stink, homeless guy. Right? So take me to old Triple C. I get bailed out. My bail was $150,000. I got out for $1,500. I went to all above bail bonds. They're a good place. Let me out for $1,500. So I'm facing this case, and I'm facing 2 charges now. Well, 2 separate cases. I got the attempt murder in the first, assault with a deadly weapon in the first, assault in the first. And then I got reckless endangerment in the second, place to keep pistol, and attempt murder in the second. So as I'm facing these charges, I don't realize how many years is about to pass me. The judge reads a sentence to 39 years in prison. He takes a recess break. I'm in the hallway with my private attorney, and he tells me, I don't think you're gonna win, bro. You better call your dad and tell him goodbye. My dad walks around the corner with a JAG officer, and he's all white. Badges from the top of his shoulder to the midpoint of his stomach. He walks in there, he says, my dad tells me, you sit the fuck down right now. So I said, okay. And then my attorney was like, excuse me, my dad tells me, you can shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down too. So the JAG officer walks in, he grabs the paperwork from my attorney. He said, this is mine. He walks in the courtroom. 5 minutes later, comes back out, shakes my dad's hand. Thank you, Mr. Perez, for all your service that you've done for this country. Take your son and go home. He depleted all my charges. Bro. Now, I did have time served. I did have to pay a hefty fine of $40,000, right? I did do 5 years straight of probation. That was the agreement. 40,000 and 5 years of probation. No if and buts or whats. If I fuck up, I do the whole term. So I had to walk a straight arrow from 2015 all the way. Well, 2012 is when I was getting sentenced. So I walked a straight arrow. I could never repay my dad in this lifetime and in the next for what service he's done for this country alone. August 28, 2016 at 9:45 p.m. My dad died. He died of low white blood cell count. He had asbestos cancer. He had it was basically too much radiation exposure. He was a nuclear submarine machinist. He built nuclear reactors for that powers our submarines and our battleships. To this day, it's based upon those reactors that he built to control those molecules. And it was right there and then where I looked at my brother, Jacob, and I told him, you know, Jake, it's just me and you against the world now. And he was just so in disbelief, he never knew what to say. This was the first time in my life that I grabbed my eldest brother's face and I looked at him in his eyes and I told him, it's just me and you against the world. And he just put his head down. Not a tear came out. He just was, fuck. He was just sick. And I was sick. And he grabs me by my shoulder and he grasps my shoulder and he forces, well, not forces, but he wanted me to walk with him to see my dad in there, in the comprehensive. And even then, seeing my dad there while his body was still warm, it didn't hit him. He walked back out. And my aunties came, my Auntie Gloria, my Auntie Van, my Uncle Christopher, who was always with us. Uncle Chrissy was always with my dad. Did small work around the house. He was our main helper. My dad would take care of him. He would always butt out to him money, like maybe a couple hundred every day. And he blamed me. He blamed me and my brother right there. As my dad, like this microphone between me, you, and the camera. My dad's literally this close to me and he's blaming me for my dad passing away. He said, your father was mad at you. All the fucked up shit you did, this and that, whatever. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, dude, my dad's right here, bro. I gave my dad, I think I could have repaid my dad just a little by giving him the opportunity to meet his first grandson. I gave him that and I told him, you know, Dad, I graduated high school this year and I give you your first son, your first grandson. I hope you're proud of me and I hope I can meet the expectations that you expect of me in this life. And he told me, you know, son, you don't need to impress me. You don't need to do nothing like that. I remember him saying that to me. This was 2 weeks before he died. We had a barbecue at his house. I brought my family over. It was like he knew he was going. And before he died that night, he was in Tripler Hospital for about 2 days in a bubble. He couldn't breathe the same air as someone else. Like the pathogens in your breath because of so much radiation exposure from building those submarines and all those ships that he helped build that powers those things. You know, his body just couldn't take it anymore. So I got a picture on my phone, maybe about 2 days before he died, and it was from his girlfriend, and he was in a bubble underneath Tripler. The doctors were walking around with like a Tyvek suit, but it was like it had its own hose with it. It had its own oxygen built in, and they were walking around with a clipboard and checking his vitals. He had needles all in his body, and he was waving at the camera. And I called his girlfriend. I said, "Auntie, what's going on?" She said, "It's not good, Carlos." And I said, "Okay." And I'm trying to learn to cope with that. I'm gonna lose my dad. You know, my dad was my hero, bro. He calls me a Thursday evening, and he leaves a message on my phone because I fucking fell asleep. And he tells me, "I'm coming home. Don't worry about me. I just wanted to tell you I love you. Kiss my grandson for me, and I'll see you guys soon." 9 o'clock at night, I get the phone call from my oldest brother, Charlton, that he couldn't even talk. He just cried. And I know it was bad. And my neighbor, Uncle Mark, who always would watch over us, Mark Brannigan, he was crying when I got to the house. And he told me he was sorry. And I told him, "What you mean you're sorry? What the fuck are you talking about?" And he tried to hug me and I pushed him away. And I told him, "Tell me what's going on." And he told me, "Your father is gone." I said, "No, that's a lie." I was like, "Whatever, okay, whatever." So all of that would pass. And I stay over there over my dad's dead body. And my Uncle Chris is telling me these things. And my Auntie Gloria's looking at my son, telling my Auntie Ben that that's not his grandson. That no can be. We gotta take a paternity test. This and that. This is happening right over my dad, bro. And they're talking about where's the will, where's the trust, where's all of this at? And Mighty Ben said it's at the house. So my dad's girlfriend, who knew where everything was, she took all the paperwork and she hid it from them. And that was the smartest move she's ever done, even though we had our ups and downs. She took the paperwork and they were arguing with her right after we left the hospital. Where's the paperwork? Where's this? Where's that? I go back to my dad's house and there's paperwork all over the house, bro. And I didn't know what was going on because I literally just lost my dad 2 hours, maybe an hour before that. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys what the fuck are you guys doing in my dad's house? D, she's trying to take away your dad's paperwork and take the house from you. So my mind is so narrow and I'm like, no, she's not gonna do that. She knows what needs to be done. And they said, how can you trust her? She's not even family. Motherfucker, she's been in my life for the past 10 fucking years. She is family. I trust her, even though she gave me all that shit and grief, more than I'll ever trust you, for someone who I only see once a year. You are not family. You're only binded by me through blood. You're not family. So we make my dad's funeral. Funeral's up at the Seventh-day Adventist Church up in Kaimuki. Me and my dad, my Uncle Chrissy, and I, we did a lot of work over there. Changed the roof, changed out the drywall, changed the lighting, changed the fans, changed out the rug. The church is pretty big. We did a lot of work together out there on the church, and they let us use the church for my dad's service. And Donnie Salcido, he's a union stewardess for the government, and he gives me a crate with all these files. And my cousin, who just came out of prison for throwing a judge's son off of the bridge in town, he grabs the files out of my hands and he says, you cannot have this. I said, and I never like causing ruckus at my dad's funeral. I get everybody from Pearl Harbor shipyards there at my dad's funeral. And then I look at the entrance where the money box is. The money box is gone. And now they're trying to take the files away. So I had my Auntie Ben, my Auntie Gloria, her husband who's on sheriff at Halava prison, and my cousin who just came out of prison pry that crate out of my hand. And my uncle's telling me, you can go to jail for this. Jail for what? Those documents are mine. They're not yours. I get to read those documents. Even though you are a trustee on the trust and on the will, I'm entitled to read those because you are not entitled to anything that entitles me. So 2 days after the funeral, I get called for a family meeting. I go to my Auntie Ben's house, and my Auntie Gloria's there. She has my dad's Figley life insurance that is sponsored by the government. Then they have the thrift savings plan sponsored by the government. And they asked me, what are you gonna do with your dad's house? I said, my dad's house? I'm gonna fix it up. I'm gonna have a contractor come in, see if what needs to be updated on the house. And I wanted to rent that house out to one family with Section 8, so that way it pays the estate. Yeah, these are all the things that my dad had told me what to do in over the years. He's been constantly drilling me about these things, and I'm trying to like explain to my auntie now, well, this is what dad wanted, and he didn't want me and my brother to live in two separate houses. He wanted us to live in one house until Jacob get his own kids, because I had my son, and I had my other two babies that I already had my other two babies and my wife, and they didn't like that idea that we had an already set plan. So my auntie says, no, you get this insurance policy for this much money. You get this other insurance policy for this much money. This is enough to start your own life. And I told her, no, auntie, that is enough to fix the houses. She said, oh, no. I don't like you do this. I don't like it. I said, auntie, it doesn't matter with what you want. Yeah. Because I have the original copy of the trust and will at home, and I know what it said. So she busts out a trust and will and a revocable trust. See, I never have this revocable trust. When Donnie Salcido and hand me this crate, he had a red manila folder that my dad specifically told him to give to Jacob. But we couldn't find Jacob at the funeral. So he gave me the folder before he would hand that crate to me in front of everybody. Okay? And to this day, I thank him for that. It had Alice's trust, her original trust and will. It had our original trust and will. And there was no revocable trust in this thing to me. Okay. So when she bust this thing out, she said, in the trust and in the will, it specifically states the same two things. When my trustee, which is my personal representative, well, my trustee is Gloria M.S. Crawford. My personal representative is Evangeline Diaz. Upon the time of my death, my trustee is to distribute all assets and real property once my youngest living child has reached the age of 21 equally per stirpiece. Equally per stirpiece. Stirpiece is a code name or a formality they use in the courtroom, talking about your kin, your child, your brother or sister. Okay. She pulls out a revocable trust that basically says that she gets everything. It doesn't have my name, my brother's name, my son's name. It doesn't have none of that. And I looking at her like, so this is what we're gonna do, right? Meanwhile, there's the funeral box right there with all the envelopes and a stack of money. Just, I say about 30,000 in cash, just stacked up. And I said, is that all the money from the funeral? She said, yes, it goes into the trust. I said, no. Let me see those envelopes. So, Perez Ohana, put them right here. To Carlos and Jacob, I put it right here. To Sandy, I put it right here, which is my mom, Sandy. And to Donna. I had 2 letters written to the Perez Ohana. I said, right there is probably about $5,000. Let's just be fair. That goes to the trust. If you want to talk about a Perez trust, whatever money's here to Jacob and Carlos, it goes to Jacob and Carlos. 10 can go here. 10 can go to my mom, and 5 can go to D. That's $30,000. Then I had a $15,000 check written from Pearl Harbor, Shop 38. She grabs the check and she goes like this. She rips it in half. She tells me, now you're $15,000 short. I said, you're a fucking cunt. And mind you, my dad did not raise me to speak to my elders that way. But now we're in a different ballgame. And she told me that if I take her to court, she's gonna drag it in court. She's gonna just drag it, right? So I know the attorney who wrote the will and the trust was also the same attorney that represented my dad in his divorce case against my mom, Pablo Cuban. I took her to court. I subpoenaed her because it wasn't to give me my stuff. It was for her to execute the will and trust in order. In order, she was supposed to. That's what I took her to court for. So we were fighting about it for about 2 years. And mind you, when we went to court 3 times in 2 years. And those 3 times, the judge didn't even give it 10 minutes or even 5 minutes. It was a recess, they're not ready. Recess, they're not ready. 3rd time, came in. We're going to have a personal representative of the state of Hawaii to walk in and mediate this court case. So I said, okay. So I got this attorney. His name is Mark Kawada. I still have him. He's actually done jack shit for me, besides defending me in in a TRO case, huh? So this is where you need to listen because it's important. This guy is ranked top 10 internationally as a criminal and law justice attorney. So he's up there, right? Then he tells me, I'm in his office one day, and he says, I know this person I know this candidate. Her name is Emily Waters Kawashima. Me and her dad been in the courthouses for over 40 years together. Don't worry. She's somebody that will help us. I said, yeah, okay. So 1 year passes. Dad passed away in 2016. 2017 comes up. 2018 comes up. That's when the shitstorm starts. She tells my attorney she wants $36,000 to transfer everything over into mine and my brother's name. I told him no. I'm not gonna pay her a fucking dime. Because why should I? You're there to mediate. You're not there to get paid. You're there to mediate the case. You can bill me after these things are done. Okay? 2019 comes. This lady, Emily Waters Kawashima, the judge grants her successor trustee and personal representative of the Genaro Luis Perez estate. So they just basically said, fuck my auntie, fuck me, fuck my brother, and fuck my dad's kin and his bloodline. Right? In I'd say October 19th, she subpoenas my brother and my mom for an eviction letter. My brother and my mom's on this appeal, and we're required to walk into the Kapolei courthouse. So as we walk in, sitting in there in the hallway, she walks in, oblivious of who I am. We've seen each other a couple times. She walks in with another guy named Diaz. Let me get his name. Yeah, she walks in with another guy, Diaz. Anyway, I can't find his name. He's a how do you say? He's a co-attorney with her in this case. Yeah. I'm gonna find him because he's not gonna get away with it. He comes in as a co-defendant on the case, and she's telling him how this court case is an open closed case, that she's gonna be able to pay the court documents and all her fees for her divorce that she's going through, or whatever she was going through, and pay for her son's tuition at Punahou and send him to college. And it's just me and my brother in there. She doesn't even know what we look like. And she's just spilling the beans about where the money's gonna go out of my dad's estate. And me and my brother are like, yeah, this lady's a fucking bitch. She has no idea what she's doing. She's talking right in front of us. My attorney sends this mediocre attorney to come in and represents us. She sees this guy make the corner, and she's looking at him like. Then he walks right up to us and he shakes our hand. She closes her book. She looks at us. She grabs Diaz by the shoulder and she starts walking him down the hall away from the courtroom. And that attorney that shook our hands walks down the end of the court hall, and he's talking with them, and she hands him a paper. So he said, okay, let's go. So me and my brother get up off the chairs in the Kapolei courthouse. And we sit down in the back of the courtroom on the left in the corner where when you walk in. The judge, he walks in there, the attorney goes like this. The judge goes, Judge Tanigao. That's his name. Judge Tanigao. He looks at the attorney that my attorney brought in, and he goes, oh, we're going to have to call a short recess to this courtroom. So as everyone gets up, we get up. He says, everyone in the Perez matter, please stay seated. So me and my brother sit down. Everyone clears the room. He asked the sheriffs, he asked the bailiffs, everyone out. Can you double check again? He said, yep. Everyone's out. He hits his button, points to the bailiff, she hits her button. You two, come with me. We're going to my chambers. When I get to the chambers, my Uncle Chris and my Auntie Ben are already in the chambers. Outside of the chambers are 4 sheriff's officers and 2 more included in the office, in the judge's chambers. The judge sits down, takes off his cloak, hangs it up. He goes, you guys know why you guys here? I said, yeah, for an eviction letter, right? He said, yeah, you could say that. With a fucking attitude. Okay, mind you, this guy's supposed to be a judge. He's supposed to abide the law. And he says, well, you know what? This is my courthouse. And this shit ain't gonna drag on in my courthouse. I'm not gonna allow that. You can agree or you can disagree. But either way, you're gonna get the fuck out. And I said, what? He said, what? Do I need to tell you again? Because if I have to, I'm gonna hold you in a contempt of court. And I said, is any of this being recorded? He tells me, it doesn't have to be. It's my courtroom. This is my house, little boy. This is what Judge Tanigawa is telling me in his chambers. And I said, little boy. And I look at the sheriff and I said, you know how weak you are that you got 4 guys out there and you got these 2 big dumb idiots in here? Because if it was just me and you, I'd fucking slap the shit out of you right now. He says, well, either way, you're going to pay $3,000 a month for the next 4 months. And you're going to have to get the fuck out. I said, how are you even a judge? How are you even able to uphold the law, dude? And you have an attitude like this. I said, so do you get the $12,000 after all of this is done? He says, no. Like that. No. Right? So I'm sitting there with my auntie and I said, Auntie, you fucking know all of this is bullshit. You know that this is all pure corruption. My auntie looking at me, she fucking breaks down. And she tells me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Everything belongs to these boys. And I told the judge, I said, you just heard from the other party herself that everything belongs to my brother and me and my sons. So what you're doing here is completely illegal. And for another thing, yeah, he said, you know what, Carlos, you need to sit the fuck down. I already read your file. I said, good. Because you fucked up today. He said, oh yeah? I said, you just called me by my first name, right? You know Jacob already. Yeah. You looked into my file. On your subpoena here, it says Sandra Egdaman. Sandra A. Egdaman and Jacob G.K. Perez to appear before Judge Tanigawa. Do you see Carlos G.K. Perez there? He looks at me and he says, "It doesn't fucking matter." I said, "Yes, it fucking does, because by right, I do not even belong in here. I am not subpoenaed to be here, and you talking like this to me." I said, "You know why I'm here? Because my mom's too sick to get out of bed to fucking be here. So I stand in her stead. But you know me by my first and last name. And you just admitted that you read my file. So you're going to base what it says and what I faced. And you're going to judge that character on me today in front of you. So you feel like because my brother is drugged out right now, and I'm an ex fucking felon, that I'm not entitled to anything. I'm just a piece of shit in your eyes." He goes, "Yep." And I look at the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, and I said, "And you're gonna just stand there and do nothing, really? Yeah? You took the same fucking oath as the officers, bro. You're literally watching it in front of you. You're hearing it for yourself. And you just stand there with your thumb in your ass. Well, just keep taking it up the fucking pipe, you big dummy. Because I hope this happened to every single one of your fucking kids." And the judge says, "Well, are you going to sign this letter?" I said, "Go wipe your fucking ass with that letter. Jacob, let's go." So we walk out. Another year passes. On that same day of October 19th, the sheriffs come. And they just opened the gate. They cut the lock to the gate. They came in, they started throwing everything out the house. Just all of our memories, everything in the yard. And they're grabbing my mom. They're grabbing her to pick her up by her hair and her arm. And they force her out the house. And my mom is literally dead out of her fucking sleep. And these sheriffs now. Sheriffs, bro. Sheriffs. Manhandling my mom like that. They have my brother's arm bent behind his back with his face pushed into the fence. And he's telling him, "I don't need fucking leave. This is my house. I grew up here all my life. I don't need no one for telling me that I don't belong here. I do belong here. This is my house. There's no fucking rental agreement. I never signed nothing," which is true. He never signed that fucking document. And I was arguing with the main sheriff. And I told him, "You trying to evict us out of this place, out of my fucking dad's house, Alice's house now, which is in my dad's trust." I said, "You trying to evict us out of our house that we grew up in most of our life. Tax-free, no mortgage, paid off, only water and electric, right?" And I tell him, "I want my copy." "Oh, I only got one. I only got mine." "Well, then you can get another one from whoever courthouse or whatever entity you got it from. You can get another one. It's not like you don't got a printer in your car. It can be printed out." He tells me, "No, I'm not going to do that." I said, "I want to read it. You can hold it." He says, "I'm not going to do that either." He says, "You know why?" So you know why? Because you're a bunch of corrupt motherfuckers. You're a bunch of corrupt motherfuckers, and you guys won't let me read it, and you won't give me a copy because you know that that thing right there is a bunch of bullshit, and I don't need to leave here. So I call the police. HPD comes. Come with about 6 guys, 6 cars. And I told him, "Officer, this guy not giving me my document saying that he going to evict me out of my house." You know what HPD tells me? "Brother, I cannot help you. This is a civil fucking matter." Oh, it's a civil matter. I said, "What the fuck do you get paid for? It's a fucking crime, dude. They're illegally vacating me off of my property. They're not giving me none of my documents. I never signed nothing or agreed to anything or an eviction letter, right? And for one is, how can you evict someone who already lives there for almost over 20 years, bro? And the cop says, brother, my hands is tied. I cannot do nothing. It's a civil matter. And you know, it's crazy because when you cry out for help, they won't help you. That was the last day that I was legally able to step foot in my dad's yards. My mom and my brother would have been homeless, but I had good friends, bro. I have a good friend, and to this day, he still takes care of me and my family, bro. People look at me like, oh, he a big chain. He must sell drugs. I bought this with insurance money, bro. I never ruined families. I never be a dirty person. I never poison nobody. Forget what I have on my neck. The day the eviction happened, my friend's wife, Linnell, she told my brother, you're not gonna go to the fucking beach. If you go to the fucking beach, I'm gonna broke your fucking ass when you're sleeping. You're gonna come live with us. And my boss saying open up the company house to my mom so she could stay there. And we went from having a future with all of our sacrifices, bro. The time away from my dad, the blood, the sweat, the tears into the houses, the memories, bro, was stripped away like that over greed. And right here is a state stamp seal from the state of Hawaii that deletes your wills and your trust. So, in my closing today, you know, you guys heard me say my drugged out brother. Well, you know, there was a time where I told him, you know what, Jake, I gonna love you regardless of what you do. Cause me trying to fight you for the past 4 years while dad's been dead, for you to walk back on your path. You know, everybody deals with their problems in their own ways, and if that's how you cope with them, then that's how you cope with them, bro. I tired fight with you, you know. And I told him, bro, I love you, no matter what. I love you, and I can give up on you. Just know that. The message to you guys is, just because your brother, your sister, your mother, or your father is strung out, you do not leave them in the cold. I did that with my brother, and that's a demon that I have to battle with every day of my life. And I should have struggled with him, bro. So my advice to you is, do not put yourself in that same predicament, because it sucks. The guilt, all of that, it sucks, bro. It weighs down on the heart and in the mind. It changes you, you know. And if you're gonna leave something to your kids, you do it in black and white. And when you're done, get you a video camera and make a video will and trust, so that way when you die, just know that when you die in court, your black and white document that you made forgive to your kids. Not, my sister's gonna handle this because look what happened to my brother, my dad's sisters, right? Or hey, it doesn't matter. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm begging you, please. Just from your hand to your kid's hand. That's how it goes, bro. That's how it should be. Because you cannot trust nobody in this world. And no one can disinherit your kids from your properties or any of your assets unless you disinherit that. That is a law. That is law. If you don't like your kids have something from you, you need to disinherit them in black and white. Because even though you don't like them have this, you can say this, you can have that. If they want to contest it in court, they can win because they're the next of kin. The courts, they're like this. They don't know where they're gonna go, right? So my suggestion to you is you make your documents black and white. Your children should be the successors, the trustees, the personal representatives. Your children. Your job as a parent is to coach them on what you want them to do for that estate, to build money and for it to hold in your families, in your legacy. Because it doesn't matter how much time we put in at work, how much money we make, how much overtime we put. We cannot take the money with us. But you know what? You can leave behind, and that is most important, and everyone takes advantage of. No one thinks about it. Is the knowledge. Leave your children with good knowledge. Because if I wasn't left with good knowledge from my dad, I don't think I would have fought this hard for what I've lost. I'm slowly turning the leaf in my life to where I'm okay with just, hey, I done my best. Whatever money he left me, I poured it into fighting for the houses. And that to me was a right decision, because it wasn't money to you or anyone else. It was money to me that he went work for, that he gave to me, and I gave it back to his legacy by fighting for the houses. Even though I lost it all and I'm sick with it, it put me in a dark place, bro. Like I said, time is a valuable thing. I spent so much time in a dark place that I missed my kids growing up. I fucked up a lot. I made stupid decisions, and my kids are getting older, and I preach to them every day, you know. Life insurance policies is one good thing too. Buy you a premium. Leave your kids, pay the $400 a month at the premium. As long as your kids can get that six figure, at least $500K or even $200K, you giving your kid that head start in life. Teach them credit. Something that our kids need here in Waianae, in Nanakuli, in Ewa Beach, Waipahu. All those poor communities, yeah. They don't teach those kids credit, because credit nowadays is everything. So if you're gonna leave anything, you in this lifetime, you gotta pay rent because you can't afford to buy a house. Hey, if you can't afford to buy a house, you want something good for your kids, get a life insurance policy. That is the best thing you can buy for them. And look into everything. Look where you can qualify. Do not go to Allstate, because they only cover accidents. If you don't die in an accident, those kids ain't gonna get it. So you just pay them $100 for the rest of your life to the day you died for nothing. That's what you gotta look for. And most of all, if you do have something like an estate, you make a will and a trust. It goes to your kids. Who's in charge of the will and the trust? Your children. Who does it go to? Your children. When you're done with that, if someone contests you in court, which will, some Korean or Chinese or some haole is gonna come there and say, hey, I wanna buy this place. You got debt. Guess where that debt goes to? Your estate. It leans on there. That's why life insurance policies are important. Because if you got $100K in debt and your life insurance policy is $400,000, your kid gets the $3, the $100 pays your debt, your kid owns the house. When you done making that black and white papers, those documents, you make a video copy. You make a video copy so that way when they say that this copy is a shitbox in court, you have that video. That's you speaking from the dead. And no judge, And no law is above what you rightfully own and paid for. If you're speaking from beyond the dead, that this is how you want it, this is how you want to execute it, you cannot beat that. That is something that we missed. That is something that I tried to strive my dad for, but he just worked so much that he couldn't. You know, and I don't want you guys to make the same mistake. So, make your will and trust in black and white. Make your will and trust in a video. Invest in life insurance policies. Those 4 things right there will save your children's future and your children's children's future. My name is Carlos Perez, and this is my meta parable.